what's going on? I'm gonna try and make this one kind of a quick one. So one of the algorithms I did today was integer to Roman, and I've actually done this algorithm before, but not on Leetcode. When I was in my boot camp, the curriculum they gave us, there was like a couple algorithms with each of like the sections, and like I've ran through them all. Like they were really easy. I remember after I did the majority of them, I tried to do some like Leetcode medium problems, and I like panicked. But obviously, I've grown quite a bit since then. Um, but yeah, so I've never done this one in Java though, so that was a new experience. But I guess I'll go ahead and explain it. So first, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna create a mapping of all the Roman numeral numbers that we can possibly get. And then we are going to have a string builder. We're going to have a key set. We're going to have an objects, or wait, sorry, key objects. So, I'm sorry, I wrote this one like probably like 12 hours ago. Array list integer keys objects. Okay, I see it now. I'm sorry, guys. So I switched it over to an array because I was having problems iterating through it. I probably didn't do that the best way. So anyways, yeah. I I converted my set to an array, and then I created a list, and then I iterated and I added to key list the objects, but I'm casting them as integers. So I'm adding the keys to the keys list because it started off with the hash map. The hash map got set into a set, and then that set got converted into an array. And then the array is getting iterated through, and the objects are getting placed into. I'm sorry, the keys are getting placed into the key list. I guarantee you I did not do this the best. I am sure of it. This looked really sloppy, and there's a lot of type changing going on here to do it in patterns that I'm more familiar with. Might could have been a little bit more exploratory here, but that's why it's nice to go back through. Maybe later I'll try and refactor this, but I was just trying to get through the solution. So then we're going to iterate through, add them, and then we're going to sort them. It's important to sort them, otherwise it doesn't appear in keys. It doesn't appear in the list keys in order. So we gotta go ahead and we gotta do some magic, sort them around. Like I say, magic. Gotta do some methods, sort them around. So then, while we're doing this while loop, it's giving us the proper number that we want. So then we're going to iterate through while number is greater than 0. And if num minus keys get last, so the last index of keys is greater than 0, we are going to subtract that key value. And we're going to append to the string builder the value. So we're subtracting the key, we're appending the value onto the string builder. If subtracting the last index is going to give you a negative number, we're going to remove that index, and then we're going to continue iterating through, going for the last one until we reach 0. Then we're gonna return the results of we're gonna return our string builder, but we're gonna turn it into a string, and that's gonna give you the right answer. Pause it and pull up the next one. All right. So the next one, we're trying to rotate an array. So basically, we're gonna shift the indexes according to the number of k. So if k is 1, and we have, so if we have 1, 2, 3, and a k of 1, it's gonna transform that into 312. Nothing to do with the Chicago area code, just coincidental. Anyways, so this one's kind of funny. So I I got an initial solution really pretty quick. I did it doing double for loops, except obviously using a double loop is never good. So that ended up giving me timeout issues, and Leetcode didn't accept it. I already knew it wasn't the best solution. So I wasn't all that upset about it. So then I'm like, all right, let's try and figure it out how to do it without a double for loop. And it actually was probably more straightforward doing it this way than with a for loop, double for loop. This way was actually super simple. And it's funny because I literally probably spent like 2 hours like tinkering with specific cases, trying to get things to work the way I wanted to, and it just was not working again and again and again. And funnily enough, I heard something earlier today. It was like a quote from like a random YouTube video. And it was like, a stupid person will look at something complex and they will think you are a genius for making it because it is so complex they can't understand it. So you gotta be some sort of god. Whereas a true genius will do something complex and make it look simple. And I think this kind of reflects that, because I kept doing this thing where I was trying to use, I had one approach where I was trying to use a hash map, and then I was trying to iterate backwards, and it would work for like certain cases, and then it would not work for the majority of cases. And I tinkered around, get to work, and then it'd break other things, and it wasn't working for me. And then I tried to iterate through the front, with kind of like a dynamic programming attempt or approach where like I would like have like a placeholder variables, and that's what I'd be like using to assign the values, and like it wasn't really working the way that I wanted it to. And then I'm like, why am I messing around with these hash maps and stuff, and like why don't I just actually make a copy of the original array? And like it was so painful because, like I said, I was messing around with this for like probably like a good 2 hours. And then I come up in here and I'm like, man, why don't I just copy the array? Literally took me less than a minute to write this code, and it worked the first try. I'm like, oh my god, like, it doesn't perform the best. It's not the most optimal, but it worked when it worked, and it doesn't use a double for loop, or it doesn't use a double loop, and it works. It's not that most optimal, but I guess I should maybe it's a good thing it ain't optimal if I could literally figure out the problem in like less than a minute when I was struggling so much with it before. But I mean, I wasn't even really struggling with it per se. It was like the fine tinkering, and things just weren't adding up. Anyways, so we got our method here, rotate, and then we're gonna make a copy of the original array. So we got a copy here. It's just a blank array, and then we're gonna system.array it into copy. This, I would not have known about this line here on number 6 if it wasn't for IntelliJ. I will say this, IntelliJ, I would probably have so much more problems trying to code in Java if it wasn't for IntelliJ. So shout out to you, IntelliJ. You're a good tool. I don't like to use JetBrains IEDs for like other programming languages. Like for like JavaScript, I just use VS Code. Um, I don't know. Maybe I'll get the Pro IntelliJ. With some fancy professional coder. Till then, it's Community Edition. All right. Anyways, then we're gonna for loop. It's gonna do it in one single loop. We're gonna do an overflow checker. So basically, obviously, if you're at the last index and you need to move one to the right, you need to actually go to the beginning. Otherwise, you're gonna go beyond what's allocated for that array. There's not gonna be an index for it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get I plus k. Then if I plus k is greater than or equal to nums.length, obviously, because the number of indexes in it is the length minus 1. So if it's greater than or equal than the length, we need to get a remainder. So say our length is 5 and we're at index 4. So we're at the very last index. And then we need to iterate 2. So from there, if we're paying attention, that would end up equaling 6. It's obviously more than 5. So we're going to have to divide by the length, which is 5. But then it's going to leave a remainder of 1, which is what, the old module's about. Because, if it's the exact length, then it needs to go to the very beginning, number divided by number 0. And this is going to work even if it was like 12. If you're going to like shift it 12 positions, then it will still work because it takes the module, If you want to shift it 10 positions and the length's 5, well, 10 divided by 5 is 2. Wait, what am I saying? Yeah, 10 divided by 5 is 2. There's no remainder. So there you go. It's going to go to position 0. And then once we iterate through so then we're going to go ahead and that will give us the overflow index. So that'll give us the proper positioning in the array if we overflow. And if we don't overflow, it's going to use the same variable. That's why it's a checker and not just the overflow index. And that's going to equal the index of copy I, because that is the value we're trying to work with here. That's the value that we're trying to replace with. Yeah. So then it ends up working. And, well, looks like we're about out of time anyways, and that's all I have to say. So thanks for sticking with me.